So, welcome everyone. As the man at the back said, my name's Noel Harris. I'm a Customer Success Director for eGain. For any of the guys whose account I work on, please no heckling. If you can save that till afterwards, that would be appreciated. I can see you at the back. So, what I want to talk to you about today, and bear in mind I am the last person here, so I stand between you guys and the cocktails, so I'll try and keep it brief. But what I wanted to talk about today was customer services messaging. And during the course of the conversation, I'll share some of the trends that we see in the marketplace. I'll share some of the results that we've seen from a survey that we commissioned, specifically around messaging. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about considerations or a recipe for a really positive messaging solution. So, messaging is hot. I think we could all agree on that. Everyone at the moment is talking about messaging, synchronous, asynchronous, social media, integration with Apple Business Chat. The list goes on and on and on. But why is that? I mean, the reality is that it's being driven by customer demand. So customers use the messaging capability in their day-to-day lives, you know? So they expect brands to align to that. And again, as we go through, we'll talk a little bit more about why that's happening. So, it's big. 1.3 billion active monthly users on Facebook Messenger. WhatsApp's slightly bigger, actually. It's about 1.4 billion. And Gartner predicts that by 2020, in excess of 50 million customers will have signed up to some sort of business SMS solution. From an SMS perspective, there are 15 million text messages sent every minute worldwide. You add into that WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, and you are around the 60 million mark. That's 1 million messages every single second. It's big. Text messaging, that has grown 7,700% in the past decade. So, first fact, 3rd of December, 1992. Does anyone know why that's important? Yes, it was the date that the first SMS was ever sent from an engineer in Newbury to a director at Vodafone. And it simply said, Merry Christmas. Did you also know that you don't need a data network in order to send an SMS? So if you get stranded out in the wilds, you've injured yourself, and you're looking for help, you could send an SMS without a data network. Just don't send a message saying Merry Christmas. You could be waiting a while. So, let's not forget proactive notifications. As we said earlier, Gartner predicts that by 2020, in excess of 50 million customers will opt in to receive a business SMS. Now, we believe that's probably short of the mark. We expect it to be bigger than that. So, right now, today, there's a US pharmaceutical company that sends out business notifications for repeat prescriptions. And it's currently got 41 million customers signed up to that. Every time I go online and I order things, it gives me the option to sign up for updates around tracking, you know? So I can see exactly where the item that I've ordered is in that process and through that delivery cycle. So we expect that actually to be a lot bigger. 89% of consumers want to use messaging to communicate with businesses. So why is that? First and foremost, it's easy. Pretty much every consumer out there has probably got access to a smartphone. The minimum that they will have access to is SMS. But they've probably got WhatsApp, they've probably got Facebook Messenger, iMessage. You know, there are all these messaging capabilities that they have access to on a day-to-day basis. So they use it because it's easy. So I think about my sister. She lives out in LA. She really is living the rock star lifestyle. I do envy her. But we never call each other and we never text. But we do speak regularly on WhatsApp. So we'll call on WhatsApp, we'll send messages on WhatsApp. We've got groups set up, family groups, where we can share photos and keep in touch with each other. It's easy. The second reason why customers use messaging is because it puts no amount of effort on my time. So anyone that's ever read The Effortless Experience by the CEB, really interesting read, but the single most important thing from that analysis for consumers is their time. I have an issue, I want it resolved, I want it resolved first time, and I want to get back to my life. So time is really important to consumers. How many times in business do we get a phone call and effectively we look at it, we either screen it or we pick it up and say, you know what, I'm really busy, I'll call you back later. With messaging, it's that fire and forget mentality. The ability to send something out and then come back to it when I am ready. So from a consumer perspective, it is really important that as businesses start to build these solutions around messaging and asynchronous conversations, that the cadence is there in order to respond to the customers, so the point at which they come back to pick that message up, they have a response. There is nothing worse than going there and not getting that response. But it also presents other challenges for businesses. So from a resource and planning perspective, how would you as a business staff to be able to cope with the volume that comes in that is single conversational line items? How do you measure repeat contact rate for something that has no defined endpoint? It can go on forever. So either every contact is a repeat or no contacts are a repeat. So there are some distinct challenges, and businesses can also get it very, very wrong when they attempt to do it. So about 12 months ago, I had a particular customer service issue with one of my suppliers. So I naturally gravitate towards web chat. That's my background. I've set up very large contact centres with web chat. So I tend to gravitate towards that. On this particular day, they were really busy. Chat wasn't available, but they were advertising everywhere to use their new messaging service. So you know what, I'll give it a go. So I went on there and I typed in exactly what my issue was and what my name was and sent it in. A number of hours later, I got a response saying we need to complete DPA, so can you confirm the following? Fine. I sent that in immediately. So as a customer, I had responded to that outbound message immediately. A number of hours later, I got another message saying, can you confirm what your issue is? And I was like, well, hang on a second. I put that in on the very first message that I sent in. But fine, you know, it's okay. So I reiterated what I'd put in the original message. The advisors clearly went home then, because I got a message the following day. And that message came back through and said, could you complete DPA? And I was like, hang on a second. And I went round this loop 3 times, because I'm nothing if not stubborn. In the end, I gave up, and I called in, and within 5 minutes, my issue was resolved. I will not use that channel with those guys again. because they weren't carrying the context, they weren't aligning to my cadence. So I was responding quickly, but I was sat in a queue. I suspect they set it up with next available agent, next available message. I suspect that's how they did it. But it was poor. So we partnered with YouGov in order to do a survey across the UK and the US. And it was based on around 6,000 respondents that were all related to messaging. And we asked a number of questions. So we asked how many of these customers had used business messaging in the last 12 months. So that's only 30%. But bear in mind, that's 30% in a very immature market. So things are starting to move. Businesses are starting to adopt the technology. What did consumers love? 86% of them felt that it was very or somewhat effective. So there's an appetite to use the channel, and when consumers use it, they like it. In terms of satisfaction, 76% of consumers felt it was about the same or better than previous channels. It is no surprise that the 18 to 34-year-old age bracket have adopted this the most. But what is quite stark for me is the fact that there is very little drop-off as you go through the age ranges. So again, going back to what we were saying, actually it's about ease for the consumer. So, universal. Consumers love messaging but hate silos. So, I had to repeat the information. Hugely frustrating. 43% of customers. Again, going back to my experience, I get it. I've been there. It is terrible when that happens. What we also tend to see is that messaging is generally adopted in the social media space, and then it will proliferate out from that environment into customer service. But generally, what you'll tend to find is that the solution that's been delivered doesn't have the appropriate wrap around it that allows you to manage it within a customer service environment. So it's not carrying context through when that contact is transferred. It doesn't have the appropriate analytics that underpin everything that we do within a contact center environment, because we're all about the numbers. Responses were not prompt, 28%. Well, it doesn't surprise me, because it's a relatively new channel. So if you think from a contact center perspective, if we're talking about a voice environment, we know at an interval level broadly what the expected call volume will be. We'll know it intraday, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. And we'll have it to a fair amount of accuracy. We'll know what the expected repeat rate is. We know what the handle time is. We know what the shrinkage is within the business. And we also know, when we recruit new staff, what the competency glide path is. So from all of that, we can take all of those knowns and then come up with a resource and planning model that allows us to achieve our voice SLAs. It's mature. Similarly with chat, when you've got a proactive and reactive environment, from all that, you know what the chat length is, you know what the concurrency is, you know what the repeat rate is, you know all of those metrics, so you can staff appropriately to manage the volume. With a messaging environment, how do you manage that volume, single conversational lines, how do you align to cadence, and how do you measure repeat rate, where everything or nothing is a repeat, depending on how you look at things. So, similarly, just to summarise what we've said before, not prompt, repeat information, and the responses were not relevant. So, where do we start? You need to start with a messaging hub. And I know that Ashu and some of the other guys that have been presenting today have spoken about this. So you need to start with an appropriate technology. So this technology needs to support existing channels, but also have the flexibility to be able to support new channels. So Gartner say that any channel that allows you to send something in, walk away from it, and come back at some point later on is a messaging channel. So the eGain messaging hub that is available today allows us to support SMS. It allows us to support Twitter, Facebook, secure messaging, email, and Apple Business Chat, with all the richness that comes with that. But in addition, we've made it an open platform with APIs because geographies and trends define the messaging interaction method. So what is true today may not necessarily be true tomorrow. So this messaging hub effectively allows you to connect with your consumers through the channels that they want to interact with you. And it gives you that flexibility so you're not constantly waiting for the product roadmap to catch up with the new trends and the geographic implications. So the messaging hub is also entry point agnostic. So what I mean by that is it allows consumers to switch between channels, but for the agent that's managing it in the background, they have all of that context. So it doesn't matter. I could start in SMS. We identify that they have an Apple device. We seamlessly move them into Apple Business Chat. We overlay with an AI or virtual assistant, and then we can complete that interaction and potentially move them back to the artificial intelligence at the end to complete the transactional element of the conversation. So, you need a customer service platform that is set up to manage effectively the messaging channel. So, if we take this example, customer comes to your social media page, they click on Facebook Messenger. Immediately, we start to interact with a virtual assistant or AI chatbot. Now, as part of that process, it uses all the elements of natural language processing, machine learning, AI, and from that, it identifies quickly what the intent is. And why this is really important is it's reducing the customer's end-to-end interaction time. So I quickly know what the likely outcome is of that Q&A between the two. At that point, it identifies that we need to go into a diagnostic process. So it will start to utilize our AI-guided process. And at some point during that, it recognizes that it needs to hand to a human being in order to complete that process. At that point, when it escalates to a human, all of the context from the VA, from the guided process, is all handed directly to the agent. So they're not constantly scrolling back trying to work out what's gone on. All the information is presented to them in order to reduce the agent effort. They simply continue with that guided process from the point at which it was handed to them, and then at the end of that call, or that conversation, they realise that there's a transactional element to complete, so they hand it back to the AI chatbot. And all of that context, end-to-end, is stored within the omnichannel solution. So the next time that customer comes through, the information is presented to the next agent. So they know exactly what happened during that conversation. And all of that is underpinned by deep analytics capability that allows you as an operation to manage it the way that we contact center people love to do. We love a good number. We love a good KPI. So, automate with AI. Artificial intelligence, I would strongly suggest, is more important in messaging than any other channel. Now, the reason that I'm saying that is within voice, you know, external factors aside, you know what the expected volume that's going to come in. Similarly, with web chat, you create your own volume. So you may have some reactive entry points, but you've got a bunch of proactive invites as well. And you can use those to throttle based on agent availability. So you can control that. With messaging, it's a direct pipe into the customer service operation. There is no control. So with AI, you would overlay through that process in order to converse 24/7, so you don't need to run just contact center hours, engage and guide, troubleshoot and solve, and escalate where appropriate. And the added benefit is for a customer, it reduces wait times, because it's already going through that process and getting an agent available to escalate, but it also reduces handle time. Because if the AI chatbot is going through a process, it's 10 steps in before it hands to the agent. So they've then only got to complete the final 5 steps. So traditional desktops or CRMs are set up in order to manage cases. They're not set up for a digital environment. Our desktop was developed from the ground up, focused around agent and customer experience. And it's not set up to manage cases, it's set up to manage digital interactions. So it has the ability to capture all of the previous context. Some of the guys have shown you today the omni-channel desktop. If you haven't had a chance to go around the demo station, I would recommend strongly go and have a look at it. But essentially, it's set up so it does not matter what channel you come through. The agent has access to all of the interactions historically through any of the channels that we offer. So, points to ponder. Workforce planning, balancing agent and customer experience and impact on contact center metrics. So we're talking about an open pipe into your organization. We're talking about contacts that have no defined endpoint. They can go on forever and deal with multiple issues. How do you keep the agents engaged but not overloaded? How do you calculate average handle time for a contact that deals in single transactional lines? And how do you measure repeat rate for something that is either 100% repeat rate or 0% repeat rate, depending on how you look at it? So I will leave you with a little bit of a customer story. So there's a cable giant in the US. It's large. It's a quad player. And they wanted, when they went to market, a modern, digital-first, omni-channel customer engagement platform that allowed them to flex and grow as their business grew and as new emerging capabilities came into the marketplace. So they recognise what's true today is not necessarily true tomorrow. Things change. So they chose eGain because of their comprehensive solution and rich omni-channel capabilities, and the fact that it's an open and secure and scalable platform. So it allowed them to integrate with these new capabilities while ensuring that it was secure and met their requirements. So 12 million customers are serviced per year via the messaging channels. So mobile, web chat, email, messaging, 12 million. That's a pretty big number. And actually, the added complexity is they have both in-house and outsourced contact centers spread across North America, the Philippines, and India. And all of that is managed within the eGain solution. So, that's it from me. I would just like to say that cocktails are available in the demo lounge, and we've also got a machine learning and AI customer conversation session for anyone that's interested. If you have any other questions, good grief, I'm being kicked off the stage, feel free to come and grab me. And just from me, thank you everyone for today, and hopefully we will see you for cocktails afterwards. Thank you.